welcome to this edition of Northwest Newsweek. The critical care physician at the center of a potential COVID-19 outbreak at Thunder Bay Regional has now tested negative for the virus after taking a second test. However, because the original test was positive, hospital officials say they will continue to treat the case as if the doctor in question has the coronavirus. Up to 140 staff and patients were tested as a result of possible contact with the doctor during his shifts last week. Another 350 have been tested as part of a plan to test all frontline workers at the hospital. Of those tests, the vast majority have come back and they were all negative. As hospital staff and administration get to know more about COVID-19, Kennedy says it's about learning how to live with it.
Because COVID-19 is going to be with us for a good number of years, and we're going to have these significant hiccups from time to time. And each time that occurs, we're going to get more comfortable living with the risk of COVID-19. And next time, we may not have to shut everything down. We may just have to take a good risk assessment and decide what our next steps are going to be.
Kennedy says despite the negative test, the ICU physician will remain off the job until he gets the all clear. There are still concerns of COVID-19 getting a foothold in the smaller communities throughout the Thunder Bay District, and members of the Nipigon Family Health Team have taken to the region to provide testing to those who want it. Adam Riley has more.
We have to start going to the broader public and start testing as many people as possible.
Those words from Premier Doug Ford 2 weeks ago have been answered by the Nipigon Family Health Team, as the agency has started a series of field clinics in some of the smaller communities surrounding Nipigon. Danielle Verville is a registered nurse with the NFHT. She says providing access for area residents who may have mobility issues was one of the primary reasons for hosting the field clinics, which so far have been well attended.
It's been a really good response from the smaller communities. So far we've been booked back to back the whole day, and we even have walk-ins, so it's been a really good response.
For those considering a test, from a first-hand experience, it feels like getting tickled inside your head. And while it's not the most pleasurable experience, it does offer some peace of mind for many, including Betty Chambers, who, along with her mother and her husband, former Dorian Reeve Ed Chambers, got tested, even though they've spent much of the last couple months strictly in Dorian.
My mom, we're very protective of her. Our whole family's been very protective of my mom, and she's elderly, and so to have her tested too for her security, knowing that she's okay. And as we're looking forward to summer too, I think everybody's looking forward to moving around a little bit more. And so just as a precaution, let's get tested.
Results for those who get tested will take up to 5 days to retrieve and can be privately viewed on the Thunder Bay District Health Unit's website. Verville echoes Chambers' sentiment on getting tested as a precautionary measure.
You never know where someone's going to pick this up. It's a fast-spreading virus, and we know that it does spread. So, I mean, someone could go to Thunder Bay or interact with someone that is positive and not know it until they have it themselves. So it's good to be proactive and test.
In addition to the testing clinics that have already taken place in both Dorian and Red Rock, further clinics are set to take place in other communities in the region over the coming weeks, including here in Nipigon, in Beardmore, and on the Rocky Bay First Nation. Adam Riley, TBT News.
2 members of the Pic-Mobert First Nation are now considered trespassers after recently traveling to Toronto in defiance of a banned bylaw. Since the middle of March, the community, located 30 kilometers west of White River, has been under lockdown as a precautionary measure due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Like many First Nation communities, a checkpoint has been set up to limit access to Pic-Mobert. 2 weeks ago, the lockdown was partially lifted, allowing residents to travel as far as Marathon and Wawa for supplies, but only when authorized by the ban. Chief Johanna Desmoulins says when the 2 individuals returned from Toronto, a known COVID-19 hotspot, they were denied access to the community. She adds most of the community is in compliance with the rules and hopes this move will amplify the seriousness of the COVID-19 situation.
95% people are complying with the other 5%. That's what we wish them to do, to take into consideration the health of the elders, the health of the community, and to realize that our health issues, our whole well-being of our community of our this sense of group of people, Indigenous people. We are at high risk in terms of many health issues.
Ms. Mullen says the two members could come back to the community, but they would have to isolate for 14 days outside the community first, then once they return, isolate for another 14 days. A man from the Rocky Bay First Nation is one of 3 people charged with second-degree murder in connection with a homicide last weekend at a Thunder Bay hotel. 36-year-old Dennis Terry Bernard appeared in court on Monday and remains in custody with a future court appearance scheduled for June 9th. The victim has been identified as 29-year-old Paul Vivier of Victoria, British Columbia. City police say the 2 men were known to each other. Officers were originally dispatched to the Midtown Inn around 10:20 last Saturday evening and located the victim with serious injuries. Paramedics with Superior North EMS transported Vivier to the Thunder Bay Regional Hospital, where he was pronounced deceased. Thunder Bay Police later announced 2 more arrests, a 16-year-old boy from Toronto and a 19-year-old man from Whitby. They're also facing charges of second-degree murder. Another stage of reopenings began in Ontario today, which will have a significant impact here in the Northwest. Fly-in lodges, cabins, and other short-term rentals resumed their operations today. And while tourism outfitters and their guests are excited to be back operating, several challenges still lie ahead. The announcement follows the Ontario government's efforts to safely reopen provincial parks for day use and the gradual reintroduction of backcountry camping at the parks. Tourism operators will implement changes for physical distancing, cleaning, and sanitizing, but will run mostly business as usual. Kenora Rainy River MPP Greg Rickford says about 90% of the summer income for the businesses comes from the United States. The border is tentatively set to reopen June 21st, but the date may be pushed back. Even if the border opens, Rickford says the lodges aren't expecting their usual American clientele to return.
We have polling to support it, and I meet with Indigenous and municipal leaders across this region every single week. Just had a meeting this morning. All of them, as painful as it is, have said, no, the border shouldn't be open. And we're talking about mayors of municipalities where 52% or more of the tax base is American.
Rickford says the challenge for the lodges this summer will be to try and attract new customers, which also provides an opportunity to expand their business. For the 3rd time in the past month, Dryden OPP have made a large seizure of illicit cigarettes, and this one was the biggest yet. It came during a traffic stop Monday afternoon on Highway 17 just west of Dryden. A search of the vehicle turned up 135 cases of unmarked cigarettes worth an estimated $540,000. A 60-year-old Toronto man has been charged with trafficking in contraband tobacco and possessing unmarked cigarettes for sale. In an unprecedented move, the Kenora District Services Board, which is the agency that operates childcare, land ambulance, and Ontario Works in the district, has requested that embattled Senator Lynn Beyak resign from the Senate. Beyak has become a pariah among many for her statements and decisions to post letters to her official Senate webpage that were deemed bigoted. When she refused to remove them, she was suspended from the Red Chamber, and since then, calls for her removal have come from many groups and leaders, including Grand Council Treaty No. 3 and Anishinaabe Nation. Most recently, a motion requesting Beyak resign was voted down by Council in Dryden. Late last month, a motion to reaffirm the KDSB's commitment to truth and reconciliation also included a request of the senator to resign. Board Chair Barry Baltessen says there was a discussion at the table as to whether or not they were overstepping their mandate.
When the resolution was voted on, we have agreed that we do wish to make this statement and stand with Grand Council Treaty 3 and Anishinaabe Nation in asking Senator Beyak to resign. But I mean, more importantly, we wanted to reaffirm our position around truth and reconciliation. And before you can even move anywhere near reconciliation, the first thing that has to happen is you have to understand the truth and accept it.
Wednesday marked the one-year anniversary of the final report of the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. The 1,200-page report outlines the conclusion that decades of systematic racism and human rights violations contributed to the death and disappearances of hundreds of Indigenous women and girls across Canada. With the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, the vulnerable in society have become even more at risk. The United Nations has documented that in Ontario, violence has increased towards Indigenous women during the pandemic. Ontario Native Women's Association Executive Director Cora McGuire-Surrett says her team has continued working during the pandemic and have received an increase in calls. She says since the pandemic began, the association has helped over 8,000 women across Ontario. The federal government originally planned to announce their National Action Plan Wednesday in response to the original report, but delayed the announcement due to COVID-19. McGuire-Surrett says the next steps must start with the women already affected.
From here, Indigenous women need to lead the action plan. You know, we can't have it from a top-down approach. It really does need to come from the grassroots up. It needs to come from the community. It needs to come from Indigenous women in all communities across Canada. Indigenous women have to lead in order for this to be successful. They've led us this far. We can't let them down by not continuing to hear their voices and for us to work collectively together and do something about it. The time for action is now.
Anwa says they will not allow the current pandemic to negate the work done in improving the lives of Indigenous women across Ontario. When we come back, we take a look at how classes will resume this fall at Confederation College in a COVID-19 world. Confederation College has outlined a plan for the upcoming school semesters while keeping themselves open to expand hands-on learning safely. The college is looking at all kinds of measures for each semester, with a gradual shift to face-to-face learning for courses where it's possible or necessary. Corey Nordstrom has more.
Obviously, we don't know yet what the fall will bring, but we anticipate where we can deliver online. Obviously, that's what we're going to do to keep people safe, and where we can't, we're going to attempt to bring people together in a safe fashion.
Confederation College President Kathleen Lynch says they are going with a hybrid approach to the coming semesters. They are taking it program by program, counting on faculty to guide them when it comes to what can be done online and what will need to be done in person. The college is looking at larger areas like the McIntyre Building and Tech Hub, where they can use the space to help distance their students with regular cleaning and pre-screening in place. Additionally, they have begun pilot projects on getting summer semester students into some technology-based labs already. The college also benefits from having equipment students can use.
We have a lot of mannequins, we have a lot of simulation, so we can do those pieces. And that's been really a boon to us to have such great equipment here, especially our nursing labs, our dental labs. We have fantastic equipment that simulates the real thing.
Lynch says they've been successful in completing all of their winter semester programs except 4 that need the use of outside facilities or have mandatory placements that can't be complete, including the flight program, medical lab assistant, and these others.
Pre-service firefighter, we're dependent on some training facilities that aren't yet open. Dental assisting, we need placements in labs, so we're trying to plan to see what could we do to get those students through.
Lynch says they are in a wait-and-see situation for those courses at this point. She is hoping things are more flexible by September and they can get back to as much hands-on learning as is possible for the fall semester. And if any students aren't comfortable with in-person classes amid the pandemic, alternate arrangements can be made. And students who want to stay at the college residences for the upcoming fall semester can still do so. More information is available on the college's website. Corey Nordstrom, TBC News.
City and town offices, as well as other related buildings in several communities across the Northwest, are starting to reopen. In Terrace Bay, many of the amenities, such as the swimming pool, will remain closed for now, but the town office is officially open to the public, allowing residents access to in-person services. Mayor Jody Davis says plexiglass shields and hand sanitizing stations have all been installed. In addition to those measures, there will be also strict rules in place to keep both staff and residents safe.
Going into the office, there's the markers, the spacia is 6 feet apart. When you're coming into the office, we ask people to respect them, and also a one-way marker indicating where you leave the office. So, and there'll be signs on the door indicating what the new rules are and the new norms are.
Despite the office being open, council meetings will still be held remotely as the state of emergency in both Ontario and the community is still ongoing. There's now an empty chair at the council table in Nipigon after longtime councillor Lavina Collins submitted her resignation Thursday. A longtime resident of Nipigon, Collins held multiple roles in the community for 4 decades, including managing the town's economic development portfolio prior to serving 3 terms on council. Collins says she's resigning so she can move to Thunder Bay to be closer to her children. There's no word yet on how the town plans to replace her on council. Tourism, which is one of the main industries in the townships of Red Rock and Nipigon, has been crippled due to COVID-19. But as we head into the summer months, both communities are banking on the use of their marinas by local and regional residents to lessen the blow. Adam Riley has more.
COVID-19 has done a lot of damage in the last 6 months. It's killed over 2,000 Ontarians, caused supply shortages, forced many into isolation, and has businesses and communities that rely on tourism concerned for the future. But in Red Rock, Mayor Gary Nelson is optimistic for the summer, especially now with the town marina open.
We'll come up with something. We'll keep it busy, try and keep it busy down here this summer. Our marina's now open for putting the boats in and the dock slips. Our kiosk for selling gas and diesel fuel probably be another week or so before we get that going.
Nelson admits, though, it won't be the same. In recent weeks, event after event has been cancelled, including Red Rock's premier event, the Live from the Rock Folk Festival, as well as the Canada Day celebration, which would have also coincided with the town's 75th birthday. But Nelson remains hopeful that boat owners from Thunder Bay and the surrounding area will use Red Rock's assets.
I'm kind of thinking we're going to get a lot of boaters out here. I mean, what better place to be is out on a lake if you want to be by yourself away from people. Get out in the lake and there's some beautiful parks and beaches out there. And yeah, I think it's going to be all right down here this summer.
Meanwhile, in Nipigon, things are looking a little rough with that town's marina, which has been damaged over the years, so much so that part of the structure has been closed. Mayor Richard Harvey says when the docks were rebuilt in 2009, the area was facing record low water levels.
Obviously, things have changed dramatically where we're now seeing record high levels. And what's happening is over the winter, with the dock actually being in the ice is actually picking up and has been damaging the dock, and it's becoming a fairly serious issue.
Currently, the town is looking at bringing in an engineering firm to get an underwater look at the docks to see how extensive the damage really is and to see what can be done to rectify it. Harvey believes if the town is going to be fixing the existing dock, It would have to be raised 2 to 3 feet to compensate for water levels. But in the meantime, Harvey wants to see the marina operating to the best of its ability.
We have a number of different tourism operators that work out of here with charter, with fishing, all of those types of things, and we want to make sure that at least as much as possible that is able to continue, but obviously it's greatly impacted by the travel restrictions that we're currently seeing.
Adam Riley, TBT News.
When we come back, an inspiring and empowering music video created by youth from Cat Lake First Nation. Youth from the Cat Lake First Nation have come together to create an empowering music video, which highlights their family values, reliancy, and strong connection to nature. Troy Charles spoke with a few of the organizers who helped the project come to life.
That's the music video for the song titled Run Free. In early March, a group of youth from Cat Lake aged 8 to 14 created the song from scratch over a 4-day period and then capped it off with a powerful music video. Residents in the remote First Nation have been living through a public health and housing emergency, which is impacting the physical and mental health of many children there. Danielle Wesley is a child and family liaison for Cat Lake, and she explains how this music video came to be.
We were talking about ideas about like arts-based things we can do, and I asked them if we could do like this music video thing because I knew about Nuijanan because like they've done a couple songs around the area, and I was like really curious to know if that's something that they could fund for us. They were able to do that, and it was pretty awesome.
I'm staring at a rabbit, I'm feeling so free. Sharing with fam so we can all eat. We care for the land so we can run free.
Nuijanan is a nonprofit founded in 2014. Through the use of a mobile studio, they create original songs with First Nations youth that cover many themes. Craig Eads was with the youth in Cat Lake. The first 2 days were for songwriting and recording, and then the last 2 for music video production.
Because by the end of it, we were able to see people just, come out of their shell in some weird way, like in lack of better words, like it was really awesome to see people, like their transformations.
And honestly, that's all you need, so let's run free.
None of this would have been possible without Save the Children Canada and their arts-based Hurt and Healing program. Save the Children CEO Bill Chambers explains why this experience is so important for the kids.
It's a validation of who you are and what you can do. And that is very, very positive for your mental health, for your world outlook, for your ability to go through life and be successful.
Anti-hunting moose, sharing with my parents, we coming through. R.A.P. Buddy T. Got love for you.
The kids say the song is about love, togetherness, family values, and connection to nature. It can be found on the Nuejanon YouTube page, where it has been viewed almost 3,000 times.
What's meant to be will be lovely, that's all we need.
Troy Charles, TBT News.
Ontario Northland buses have been rolling into the Northwest over the last few weeks, bringing an inter-community bus service back to the region. Initially set to only travel to Thunder Bay, Minister Greg Rickford gave a surprise announcement just prior to the service resuming that the route would continue beyond Thunder Bay to Winnipeg along the Highway 17 corridor. Kenora Mayor Dan Reynard says he's happy to see the service back, but he was surprised by the reactions from communities who don't have direct access to the route.
What was interesting was the excitement from the other municipalities in terms of the Ear Falls, the Red Lakes, because now, even though they have to drive a bit, it still provides them a service as opposed to, having to drive all the way to Winnipeg or all the way to Thunder Bay. So it's a great first step, and we're hopeful that, once we come out of COVID-19, we'll see the ridership increase.
Reynard says he's been told the plan is to create an extension into the Fort Frances area, which would link up with the main route. That's all for this edition of Northwest Newsweek. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.